Most vloggers talk about age gap relationships between an older foreigner and a younger Filipina, but few vloggers get down to the nitty-gritty and discuss deeper connections, the cultural differences, and whether the daily conversations you have with your simple Filipina girlfriend over supper while she's staring gormlessly at her phone are gonna fulfill you.
Hello, good morning, good evening, and welcome to Big World Cinema. Without further ado, we'll continue with what you're here for.
According to a 2022 PISA survey, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, PISA standing for Programme for International Student Assessment, the Philippines ranked 77th out of 81 countries, performing worse than the global average in all categories. Only 16% of Filipino students attained at least level 2 proficiency in mathematics, compared to countries in the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development who average 69%. One of my favourite numbers. In reading, the average score for 15-year-olds in the Philippines is 347 points, compared to 476 points in OECD countries. So you're from a Western culture, have little or no knowledge of the Philippines and Filipino culture. Considering starting a life with someone on the other side of the world, whose understanding of the world is totally different to yours. She speaks English, but her actual understanding or command of English is different. Actually, understanding of slang and little sayings that us foreigners say easily to each other are not understood. We might as well be talking gobbledygook. Many people say stay away from the dating websites. But what alternate options do you have to connect with a Filipina living on Brokeback Mountain? So you start chatting online to someone living in the Philippines. When I say chatting, a lot of Filipinas are hesitant, cautious at the start, if you will not jump straight in asking you loads of questions. They've probably chatted to 200 guys already that day, and they get bored easily going over the same content with everyone. So you'll probably get a hi, even though I've said in my profile I don't respond to hi. Have you read my profile? No. Why? Is it important? They're after a serious relationship, but they can't be bothered to read anything about you. Far too lazy. So you're wondering, are they really interested in me? Their conversation is short and stilted. After I've asked 10 questions and I've just been getting one-word answers, I drop in the "I love our conversations" message. Great, me too, most Filipinas will respond, not picking up on my irony at all. But amazingly, one Filipina this week noticed my sarcasm and apologised. Another Filipina, after I said to her, "One-word answers don't reveal much about you," apologised and gave me another one-word answer. Sarcasm is lost on most Filipinas. I'm forever being misunderstood. Woe is me. When I told my mate in the UK I needed to dumb down when I speak to Filipinas, he sarcastically said, "Really?" Forget sarcasm. Even my foreign audience on YouTube tell me to curb my sarcasm. As if I'm going to do that. Like asking a Filipina to maybe eat less rice. Filipinas are pretty conservative. They might post provocative photographs of themselves online, but unless they're calling themselves Miss Sexy or Sexy Filipina, do not lead with a "you're a sexy lady," as that will not be received well. It feels like you're stepping on eggshells when you first start chatting to a Filipina, testing the water. Any wrong words and your conversation will be immediately halted, blocked or reported. I should know, it's happened numerous times to me and my sharp wit. Or twit. I've been kicked off OkCupid and Dating Asia for my witty banter. Telling a Filipina you're spanking the monkey whilst perving over her profile photos will probably be misconstrued. What you may think as harmless good fun may not be for them. Even the word fun here is used as an online alternative to offering jiggy action, so be careful how you use it. Let's go on a fun date. No, I'm looking for serious relationship. So you need to pitch your conversation just right. Most Filipinas will be happy with a "Hey, how you doing?" But others will need a more inspiring intro, such as "I see in your profile photographs that you love dogs. I like dogging too." So you need to consider your words carefully, be very, very patient, and persevere if you want to get somewhere. Or just say, "Sorry love, your conversations are too boring. Bye," and move on. The problem with today's generation is the word shorts. People's attention spans nowadays are minimal. Everything is kept to a minimum. People have no time to watch a 20-minute YouTube nowadays about Filipinas, let alone get into an hour's conversation with you, knowing that you may tire of their witty banter and ghost them, for them to have to go through the whole thing again with another robot. I may have mentioned earlier, whilst texting a Filipina, that I'm in Mabolo, Cebu City, and 2 seconds later she asks, "Where are you?" Scroll up! I want to scream, but instead take a sharp breath and retype Mabolo, Cebu City. Many Filipinas are simple and will say so themselves. Now, we use the term simple in the West, referring to less intelligent people, but Filipinas mean that they lead a simple life and have no desire to achieve great things. I often ask the question, what's your plans for your future? Which is a common question we talk about in the West. But in the Philippines, for a lot of the population, just surviving day to day, finding food for themselves and their family is their idea of a future. Many Filipinas don't even complete their schooling, and often Filipinas will still be at senior high school in their early 20s. So chatting to a 23-year-old Filipina who says she's still at high school is quite common. But it's a pretty weird scenario discussing homework with someone who isn't your daughter. On my online dating profiles, I say I'm looking for a good communicator, but often Filipinas don't really want to communicate, especially when they're asked something taxing. They're masters at avoiding answering questions they don't want to answer, so I adopt their approach now. If they ask how old I am or how long I've been here, I just ignore the question. Or lie. I should really start responding with nothing or never mind. These words are my pet hate when Filipinas don't want to explain things. And just this week back in Cebu, when I was asking simple questions such as, "You have siblings?" or "Where do you live?" I kept getting the same response. Why? Oh gosh, and why is that? Filipinas have a defensive wall. So my response to why is now, why do Filipinas respond why to simple questions? Which they don't respond to. A Filipina may be living out in the province, never been to college, but still have lots of opinions and interesting things to say, and know how to conduct a conversation. A Filipina doesn't necessarily have to go to university to be a good communicator, and the standard of most university degrees in the Philippines is not on a similar par with a university degree in the West anyway. UP, otherwise known as the University of the Philippines, often considered as the top university in the Philippines, has a global ranking of 336th. In the QS World University Ranking Figures 2025. Back in the UK, each of my long-term girlfriends had university degrees, and on the dating sites you will meet Filipinas with all levels of intellect. It's not just the simple girls you'll meet online. The more intellectual type of Filipina will normally be found on Bumble or OkCupid. Filipinas who have travelled or lived abroad, have good jobs and dine in more salubrious restaurants. Just over 18 months ago, I matched with a girl on OkCupid, late 20s, who was currently staying at a hotel in Poblacion in Metro Makati and invited me over. Now, normally when I receive an invitation like that, a request for payment generally follows, but this lady assured me that no payment was required. She lived in Alabang in Metro Manila, but worked as a personal assistant and had booked a 3-night stay in the city. We video called each other, but then due to her work demands, we couldn't meet that night, but arranged to meet the following day for lunch in Makati. When I arrived, she was already there, with food arriving on the table that she had already paid for. The date was brilliant. We got on really well. Everything was so natural. We had such a great laugh and time together. She was actually separated, but technically still married to a Filipino guy, but was open-minded, talking about how her husband didn't satisfy her and that she needed to pleasure herself twice a day. So the date was a bit of a hoot, to say the least. For the next few weeks, we carried on chatting to each other, and what great open conversations they were. I could totally be myself with her, like a total breath of fresh air that I hadn't experienced in the previous 3.5 years I'd been living in the Philippines. We would literally reveal everything that was on our minds and thoughts about what would happen when we eventually got behind closed doors together. For the next 10 days, we'd converse by text or video calls, but it was a really busy time for her, arranging photo shoots, packing up her stuff to move out of her flat, splitting up from her husband, and dealing with her brother who was currently in hospital after an accident. And I was about to move out of Manila and hit the road, so we never actually met each other again. To be honest, apart from the easy conversation, she wasn't someone who I saw myself being with. And what with still being technically married, foreigners can get into trouble dating married women here. So I bailed. She always said I was targeting the wrong market with the Filipinas I dated, otherwise known as the low-hanging fruit, but I don't feel I have much choice, to be honest. I would rather date educated, intellectual Filipina, but in my humble opinion, I'd say that intellectual Filipinas are generally not that interested in older foreigners. My mate Victor always pulls me up on this, saying that in his dating Filipina days before he found himself an intellectual Filipina with a good job on OkCupid, he had dates with educated Filipinas who were interested in dating an aging foreigner. But he is a young man in his late 40s, not like what I is.
So if you like what you're seeing here, hello, and want to stay connected with life in the Philippines, I think you need to subscribe and click the notification bell. Thank you.
So once you've earned her trust, Filipinas are more than happy to chat with you about all and everything within reason. Her everything, however, might not be on such a wider spectrum as yours. So you might want to omit your passion for dogging until after you've had your first meet. Many Filipinas' daily conversations will consist of what they're eating, mainly rice and dried fish, doing the laundry. Yeah, we take for granted that we just drop our stuff at the laundry, which costs around 150 pesos, $3, which is a third of a day's wage to the majority of Filipinos. And TikToking. So there might not be a lot to talk about with you. But if talking about trivial things is suffice, there's no problem with that. I find it weird how foreign guys will jump so readily into a relationship with a Filipina they've only known 5 minutes, whereas back in the West you courted Daphne for 5 years before committing to her. It's as if foreign guys here think there's going to be few options. Best grab the first one who shows an interest in me. You need to spend a lot of time chatting and getting to know her, in my opinion, and feel that she has more to offer. So you're in an LDR with a Filipina who you've not met yet, chatting with her every day, maybe twice a day. You have no idea when you're going to make it over to the Philippines. You could be chatting with her for 6 months or a year before you finally get to meet her for the first time, if at all. This weekend I was chatting to a 29-year-old on Pina Love who lives in Masbate. I need to visit that island just for the crack. Bigg World Cinema pleasures himself whilst on Masbate. Chatting with this Filipina was the best chat I've had online with a Filipina for a long time, probably since the OkCupid girl. We were chatting real time on the same page, not waiting 20 minutes before she responded. As I say, she was 29, had no kids, said she'd been in an LDR with an American guy who she spoke with every day for 5 years, but decided to break off the relationship last year as he never came to the Philippines. So they never physically met in real life. I wanted to ask if she felt like she'd wasted 5 years of her life, because that's what I would have felt. Communicating with someone every day for 5 years to be left with nothing. What if he had arrived and there'd been no chemistry between them? Which has happened to me before, but that was only having chatted to a Filipina for 5 weeks, fortunately. And can you call somebody that you've never physically met in the flesh your boyfriend? I guess so, because many do, but I don't get it myself. I'd only call her my girlfriend, having touched her in the flesh. Otherwise, she's just a 2-dimensional object. At least a blow-up doll is 3-dimensional. Just a quick reminder to please click the thumbs up button if you liked the video, or thumbs down button if you didn't. Obviously. Thank you. Anyway, who am I to judge how two people conduct themselves when they're living 10,000 miles apart? Where was I? Oh yeah, you're 10,000 miles from the Philippines. Lived all your life in the States. You're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, have grown up kids. Your betrothed Filipina is 30 years old. You know everything about her, her kids and her extended family. Then you finally take the plunge. Get up off your knees, sell your ranch up Brokeback Mountain and head to the Philippines to meet her for the first time. Brilliant! You're together at last. You spent so much time chatting and getting to know her and now know everything about her. It's great now that you can share meals together rather than eating separately together on screen. But chatting to her a couple of times a day as opposed to living together 24/7 in the same house is another story. Now you sit having meals together and there's silence. An awkward, uncomfortable silence echoes around the room. You've exhausted the basic conversations about family, hobbies, work and travel. You have a lifetime of stories to tell her and wanting her to offer you more. But there isn't any more. She has no opinion on all the plastic that's being dumped on the beaches in Panglao. She has nothing more to say, just basic conversation about how the food tastes. Coming from the West, we are more privileged, have led more colourful lives generally compared to the majority of Filipinas. When I talk to Filipinas about my past, all the countries I visited, all my travel experiences, I feel like I'm name dropping or showing off, when the only place she's travelled to is Mactan Public Beach. So I feel there's a void. I'm a chatty, easygoing guy, have an interest in and able to relate to most people, chatting about anything and everything. But after knowing my Filipina girlfriend for almost 2 years, our conversation expired and we had literally nothing left to say to each other. And she has a university degree. Can you handle that? I know I can't. I'd rather be alone than feel alone in the wrong relationship. But don't worry, there's plenty of Filipinas out there. You just need to find the right Filipina for you. One who'll get your references to the office and understand the rules of baseball. Good luck with that. See you in the next life. You've been watching Uncle, the man from Bigg World Cinema. Please like, subscribe and share with your friends.